Paul wrote to the Romans, all of creation waits with eager longing for God to reveal his children. For creation was condemned to become worthless, not of its own will, but because God willed it to be so. Yet there was this hope, that creation itself would one day be set free from its slavery to decay and share the glorious freedom of the children of God. For we know that up to the present time all of creation groans with pain like the pain of childbirth. But not just creation alone. We who have the Spirit as the first of God's gifts, we also groan within ourselves as we wait for God to make us his children and set our whole being free. For it was by hope that we were saved. But if we see what we hope for, then it is not really hope. For who hopes for something that he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. During the course of the past week, in a number of conversations, I've been exploring with people, how do you take things that are coming across your eyes and your mind and within your own body and make them part of your own existence? It's a difficult question. All of us read the newspapers, but most of us read it through and don't consciously try to take what we're reading and put them into a comprehensive framework of life. We do it unconsciously. All of us believe certain things about other people. All of us believe certain things about society. All of us believe that we have an understanding of what's going on, whether we meditate upon it, change it, or not. But we take things and we fit them in unconsciously, and then for most times forget it. On the other hand, somebody like me who is constantly in the throes of regurgitating knowledge, regurgitating facts, trying to put it into a framework, I walk around preaching. Chris, my wife, sings. If you were to peel back her head at any point and look at the brain, you would find music in there. She's constantly singing all the time. And it doesn't matter what you say to her, if she's in the mood, it fits right into a song. She can take any word in the English language and knows a verse of some song, hymn, or something that fits it. Now, some of you are like that too, I know, but she's always doing that. Now, I don't sing. That would be too painful. The Spirit, according to the Scriptures, would groan too much on the inside. I preach. It may be painful too. But I'm driving down the street and I hear something on the radio and it becomes a point of a sermon or a lecture or a slide presentation, and I file it back on those kinds of things. This is biblical in mind. To take things and to try to examine your framework of thought within the constant, ever-changing knowledge that comes your way. To conceptualize what is happening and to try to cause it to interplay with what you hold to be true. The great German Swiss theologian Karl Barth one time indicated that one who does not read the newspaper every morning, but reads only the Bible, has only done a portion of his responsibility. And one who reads the newspaper every morning and never reads the Bible has only done a portion of his responsibility. But the man who's going to grow in the Spirit must read each day. Now, I don't know why. Maybe it was because of that, or maybe it's just because it happened to fit that way. But I decided this week that we would pull out of the newspaper themes that fit into the concept of to trust is to hope. Last week our theme was trusting and how people develop trust with each other by starting with trust. We argued that one cannot totally understand a relationship and grow in trust if they don't start with trust. Trust does not build from a faulty seed. That is untrust, no trust, hatred, or bitterness. You don't learn to trust somebody. You learn to acknowledge that your trust was correctly placed or not. But the trust is basically there, and the whole positive thrust of an active reaching out to other people with belief in who they are and what they are and their dignity. And while I didn't use it last week, I thought of golfers, where it fits not only in the concept of trust, but almost outrageous hope. It is incredible to me, having been through it, that one breaking into my apartment of 10 years ago adversely affected my life in terms of my ability to enter a house, and even to this day, as I open the doors, expect that somebody's been in there. But all of the shots I made into the sand trap never kept me from hoping that the next time I'd miss it. Isn't that right? the time I wandered around in the rough up to here looking for balls that cost me $1.25 in those days never kept me from saying, next time I'm not going to be in that rough. I lived a perpetual hope. The slice was going to be miraculously cured. And every game I'd come in and I would point over, I missed that shot and I missed that shot, but did you see that beauty on 14? And life for a golfer who is really into it is not a phony concept, but in a sense holds out to us the point that as we learn to trust and to build on that and work towards it, we have hope. And it's not the bad shots that change the game, it's the hope for the good shots that make it go. I think life is an awful lot like that. And I think if we can learn to live that way and to look at things in a reasonable way, we're going to learn the concept of hope. Well, first thing out of the paper was last Sunday. I didn't get a chance to read the paper until late in the course of the day, but in the Detroit Free Press, many seek aid. Memory of terror haunts hostages. You'll remember that during the march, there was this terroristic raid in Washington in which a number of people were held hostage by a group of extremists. And afterwards they were released and the Gaddafi members were jailed and tried and all kinds of things were happening. The people who had been held hostage for that long period of time went through some things that were kind of interesting. Many of the hostages suffered from diarrhea, internalizing that which had happened and not being able to work with it. Sleeplessness, anxiety, fear of the dark, and teeth grinding since their release. When I was through being questioned, I had a good hot dinner, laid in a soft bed with clean sheets, free and unharmed, said one man who had been released by the Gaddafi because of a heart problem, and it bothered me a lot. The guilt reached out not only to those who had been saved, because they wondered why they had been chosen to be saved. One of the severest problems that the survivors of the concentration camps have had is living with the fact they survived when others didn't. The initial joy of individuals who survive through a crash where others are killed soon disappears, and the people have a sense of guilt as to why they were chosen to survive and others weren't. Then I learned that some of the older men who were not bound until the very end of the siege had guilt feelings because they weren't bound. Some haven't been able to go back to the office. But the worst thing faced by the hostages was their loss of pride, dignity, and their loss of control over their lives. Now, what does that mean? When you begin to understand and probe a little bit, the loss of pride, the loss of dignity, and the loss of control over one's lives means that they've lost trust and hope. And when one loses trust and one loses hope, one has no concept of a future. And when you don't know of the future and you can't look forward to the future with a feeling of confidence, you are destroyed as a human being. The most tragic thing is for an individual to lose the ability to look beyond where they are now with realism and to reach out and to see that what's coming is within their control. Now, I think there's some fascinating things that can be said about this, but when you lose your dignity, when you lose your trust, when you lose your control, the future is gone, and when the future is gone, so is hope. And without hope, man cannot live. Well, if that's the case, how do we develop a concept of hope? Hope is based on trust. I think this is the first thing. Writing about the Bible, when Paul S. Minier, an Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible, said, when man confidently rests on ephemeral resources, his hopes are doomed to futility. Let's pause on that one for a moment. Hope is based on trust, and trust is based upon a human relationship between two individuals. There is no such thing as trust within one individual. There is no such thing as hope within one individual, because as we grow and develop, we are constantly aware of our other directedness. That is towards God and towards other people. And hope is based upon that kind of personal relationship. The Bible constantly condemns placing hosts in powers like political powers. It may surprise us in the contemporary 20th century to know that the ancient Hebrews didn't trust politics any more than we do. Don't put your trust, says Isaiah, on the kings of Egypt with their mighty chariots and their horses, but trust in the Lord your God. Don't look to the pagan kings and their false promises, say the prophets, but trust on the Lord your God. You see, there was deep down inside the ability to recognize that external hopes based on a false confidence in the abilities of others was not to trust, but to dream futilely. They recognized that it was a personal kind of thing that established the relationship between people, not a power pact signed by a paper. We're going to get into this Tuesday morning in The Little Prince. There's this beautiful story in The Little Prince about a fox and the little prince who meet each other. And the fox says to the little prince, "To you, I am a fox like 100,000 other foxes. There's nothing different. There's nothing significant. There's nothing that causes you to look at me and see anything different than anybody else. I'm just one of a kind. If I can put it in the contemporary language, all us foxes look alike." And you've all seen and heard that. And he said, "But you are just another man, another human being. Human beings hunt foxes, and there's nothing personal about you either, because we haven't," and there's a very difficult word. I've been studying for a whole week to understand this French word. Apprivoiser. Tame, but that isn't what is meant by it. It doesn't mean to tame another person. You don't tame somebody else. It comes in from two Latin words, a and privé. Now, I have a feeling, if I can get the good French grammar that goes into these things, I think I'll prove myself right, because I've been doing a study of the dictionary, and I've got a feeling it's right. What it really means is take and make me a part of you in private. That is, share with me, befriend me, take my private existence and take your private existence and put them together. And it grows slowly, says the fox. Sit with me, but not too close the first day, so I have a feeling for you. And then the next day, sit a little closer and let's talk together. And over a period of time, not tame, you see, that's not taming. Over a period of time, the two of us will be what? Friends, befriended, sharing. That's basically what it's after. Privately entering into relationship one with the other. And then I will not be a fox like every other fox. I will stand out. You will know me and see the differences. And I will be unique for you. And you will not be a human being like every other human being, but because we've done this, we've shared, you will be unique for me. And I will look at the grain fields, and as a fox I don't eat the grains. And I pay no attention to them, but now the golden grain fields will remind me of your golden hair. And when I see the grain, I will think of you and the fact that we have shared together. Now that's hope. That's trust. That's building upon the relationship of the kind that ultimately we are capable of building with other people and sharing. And when you build that, you have the concept of hope. For it's based upon a mutual trust, a mutual giving, a mutual oneness, and a mutual understanding. Second thing is hope is based on an inner peace. That's extremely dangerous to deal with. Most of us think that inner peace is a state of quality. You either have it or you don't have it. And they think that inner peace is something that works around inside you, that shields you from everything that's going on around you. Nothing could be farther from the truth. People with the greatest inner peace are oftentimes the one most tormented. The prophets had a tremendous inner peace because they knew what they were doing was right. But they were tormented by the fact that what they were doing oftentimes did not work out right, that things were not always running smoothly. They struggled within themselves. They talk about it. There burned within me a fire. But they knew that under God what they were doing was right. It means that somebody with inner peace has entered into a relationship with God in such a divine, almost incredible way that every action of life is put into a proper perspective. And even when the evil days come, they have the ability to hold on, not to not suffer, but to cry openly, to give fully, and to share. And as this point was coming along in today's paper on the front page. Woman with only a Bible humbles a would-be rapist. Did you see it? A man broke into a home, 5 o'clock in the morning, threatened a woman, stole her money, $2, and decided that he would rape her because he was angry. Remember that rape, for the most part, is an act of anger. She pleaded with him, which is the wrong thing to do, because if it's an act of anger, it just makes angry more guilty and causes a whole host of things to happen. And as she pleaded with him, she finally asked if she could go get her Bible and began to read to him and to preach and to pray. And on the way out, the man left without only not harming her, but by asking her to pray for him and put her $2 down, and she said did not run, but walked away. Now, one is not going to say in a rape crisis clinic that you ought to walk around with a Bible and read it. It was not the Bible or the reading of the Bible that caused that individual to recognize something. That is a phony concept. What was true about it was caught in just a passing moment by the writer of the story. A tiny, unarmed lady with a tower of inner strength. This woman so believed in who she was and what she was, and so believed in God. For she talks about being an active, completely dedicated Christian for the past 16 years, that kind of strength that refused to go along with something that would degrade her, that would cause her a lack of dignity, that would express concern towards another individual, that kind of inner strength so challenged somebody who didn't have it. The response almost has to be either sheer brutality or a backing off in respect. She had inner peace. I imagine she was scared, terrified. I imagine she will suffer afterwards, wondering if she had done the right thing and what would have happened if, which is what terrifies most of us. We survive what actually happens to us, but we're constantly worried about the ifs. If this had happened, and then we crash. But the interesting thing about it, I think, is that here is a woman who understands inner peace, knowing that under God she can face and will overcome anything, and therefore she is free from the kinds of tensions and hates and bitternesses that destroys hope, and can look with confidence towards the future. Well, I think there's a third thing, and that's to be found in the biblical concept as well, and that is that hope is based on reasonable expectations. I didn't clip it because I didn't think I was going to use it, and all these other things sort of fell together differently, but there was another thing in the paper this week, Billy Graham. I received a letter from a young lady that said, "Oh, will God answer my prayers? I have fallen madly in love with a pop singer. I want desperately to marry him. And I have been praying to God, oh God, please let me marry this individual and give him to me as my husband. Will God hear my prayers and grant them?" Don't you ache over something like that? You chuckle because it's naive, but you also see yourself there. Maybe not talking about some pop singer, but a car or a house, or a host of other things that you sort of say, "Oh, now God, if I could just have that, I'd be happy forever. I'd die a happy man. If I could just." So that child, that young lady has caught us in a sense, and that's why we chuckle for each of us, but we're also saddened. Is that what marriage is? Infatuation with somebody you don't even know, that you've heard sing? Is that what the depths of the human experience is all about? Mr. Graham went on to point out that God doesn't grant things on that particular basis, but that one has to begin to understand that hope must be realistic. Now, this is extremely difficult for us to understand. We think of hope as being only something that we want. How many times do you understand hope as a synonym for one? You are constantly saying, "I hope for this." That means I want it. That is not the biblical dimension at all. The biblical dimension is that based upon where you are now, you reasonably look to the future and expand your horizons. It does not even, as we shall see in the conclusion, indicate whether hopes are good or bad. Hope can be bad. But it is based in the biblical idea upon being aware of where you are now and expanding it to the future. That's why the whole concept of finding time that we've been talking about, based upon the future is now. You take it from now and you cause it to grow. And you cause it to reach out. And as you reach out from your own inner resources and from where you are now, you look with reasonable expectation to what can be. And under God you say, not, God, give me that way out there, but God, give me the strength and help me to see, first of all, where I should be going, and then how to do it and get there. Now that's hope. That's reasonableness. It does not ask for the lump to go away. It does not ask for the eyesight to be returned. It does not ask that this cup be taken away from me without adding, but thy will be done. It does not ask for some kind of a phony concept of the future that doesn't touch now. It does not ask for something way off there that is unrelated to where we are now. It does not say, in heaven it will be good, even though it's bad now. But it does say, God, I am here now. Help me to grow reasonably towards what you want me to be. For you see, ultimately, again, the basic question is not whether hopes are good or bad, but whether they are futile or valid. For those of us who stand with our tradition firmly in the Christian church and the teachings of the Judeo-Christian tradition, and in today's world where everything that comes out of the paper fits into an understanding of life and causes us to rethink and reevaluate, we can only say that as we face the future with hope and confidence, we face it when we have trust, when we believe in ourselves. Because we believe in ourselves, we are free to believe in our fellow human beings. And when we are free to develop and free to believe in our fellow human beings, we begin to understand the power of God within our lives. We don't know what the future brings, for what is it to hope if one sees? But we do know with inner peace of God active in our lives that whatever it brings, the strength and the support of love and His gift to us is that we can face it with a confident